Welcome everyone. We will continue our series on the Noble Eightfold Path, this seminal foundational teaching of the Buddha, the path, the way to the end of suffering, the way to happiness, the way to wholeness, the way to peace, the way to deep, deep, clear understanding. And we're in the final component of the Eightfold Noble Path, this component focused around meditation, focused around our actual practice on the cushion. But the first two of the three, right endeavor and right mindfulness, which is the topic this morning, actually we also use off the cushion. But the final factor of the Eightfold Noble Path, right collectedness, right stillness, in Pali, right samadhi, is truly talking about deep states of meditation, deep states of clarity and stillness, actually altered states of consciousness, different than our regular everyday consciousness. So this right mindfulness, the Pali is samasati, and it's typically now translated as right mindfulness. About 100 years ago, when the Pali was initially being translated into English, this Pali word was actually translated, sati was translated as recollected. Recollection. And it's very beautiful. It captures another aspect of mindfulness, this idea of collecting the attention, and it becomes much, much stronger. So, right mindfulness, this mindfulness has really made it into the mainstream. I think there's even a magazine, Mindfulness. And often we think of the first part, one part of mindfulness, unless we've come in contact actually with the Buddha's teachings. We tend to think of mindfulness as this awareness of being present, where you're not lost in the past, and you're not fantasizing about the future, and that you're right here, right now, present. Very much a part of mindfulness. Very, very much a part. In addition, the second part of sati is captured more in the recollected, and it's connected with our memory. It's so for mindfulness to be fully mindfulness, the way that the Buddha used and taught this word sati, involves these two components of present moment awareness and a remembering of the instructions, a remembering. And so Ajahn Brahm, has for me a very succinct, clear definition of mindfulness, and that is, what am I doing? This is the awareness part. Like what am I doing? What's going on? What am I feeling? Like, what am I doing right here, right now? And then the second part is, what would be beneficial to be doing? Like what I don't like the word should, but like, what should I be doing with what's going on right now? It's a remembering the instructions. So I very much want to talk about these two parts today in the talk. This first part of what am I doing, becoming aware, and then this second part of what would be beneficial to be doing, remembering the instructions and bringing them in to our day-to-day practice of mindfulness and our on the cushion practice of mindfulness. And I can think of an illustration that to me underscores that these two things are actually, they're quite related. This awareness and this memory component. And we probably, many of us, most of us can relate to this illustration. And that's that illustration of you can't find your keys. You can't find your car keys, and you're actually supposed to be getting in the car going to work. Where are my keys? And this sort of underscores that when we're aware, when we're in the present moment awareness, often where we place our keys gets recorded in memory more strongly and more clearly than when we're not present. When we're distracted and maybe upset about something, or we get interrupted, our regular routine, boom, the keys get placed, and there's not this mindfulness, there's not the present moment awareness, but then there's also not the it being recorded in memory. It's just this absent-minded. And we've all had that experience, right? Of you trace back your steps. Well, what was I doing? What was happening? And you go to where you think you walked. And I've had this experience, definitely. And then I mean, the most extreme, when you find your keys in the fridge, But I mean, you find your keys and like, oh my goodness, I don't even remember being over here near this counter. I don't even remember that part, let alone putting my keys down there. So that for me, that really brings home, oh yeah, mindfulness, when I'm really present moment aware, there's quite an imprint on the memory and an ability to recall. And the flip side, we all can remember very, very poignant times in our lives. And it might have been something very, very simple. It might have been just a particular sunset, or just a particular phrase that someone said. And something about it was very alive and meaningful and significant. And it made this big imprint, and you can go back in your mind's eye, you can go back to those moments. It's another illustration of how these two parts of sati are connected and working together. So this first part, this being aware, being in the present moment, for both these parts, I'm going to try and keep it simple. There are so many ways that you could speak about mindfulness, and it's worth it to listen to different talks about mindfulness. A very, very important component of us waking up. A skill that we are all learning, and a training that we are all undertaking as we bring the attention back to the meditation object. What the faculty that the capacity that we are developing is this mindfulness, this sati. And Venerable Analayo, a Pali scholar, beautiful practitioner, German monk, and very, very helpful, avid supporter of the Bhikkhuni, of the emergence of the Bhikkhuni Sangha, the Bhikkhuni ordination, and the Bhikkhuni order of fully ordained nuns. Venerable Analayo talks about sati it's a feminine noun, and he always talks about like my friend sati. Oh, and the way even he says sati, it's like he's talking about this being, this faculty, this capacity that has changed his life. Oh, my friend Sati came back, and I came back to the meditation object. Sati, our good friend and our teacher, and our great supporter, Sati. So we're going to look at two different suttas today that have these beautiful similes, many similes about sati, about this mindfulness in the texts. And this one is quite graphic, but it really points to how the body is our gateway to learning sati, learning mindfulness, and strengthening sati, strengthening mindfulness, and developing it. So, practitioners, this is the Buddha speaking. Suppose on hearing, the most beautiful girl of the land, the most beautiful girl of the land, a great crowd of people would assemble. Now that most beautiful girl of the land would dance exquisitely and sing exquisitely. On hearing, the most beautiful girl of the land is dancing. The most beautiful girl of the land is singing. An even larger crowd of people would assemble. Then a man would come along, wishing to live, not wishing to die, wishing for happiness, averse to suffering. And someone would say to him, "Good man, you must carry around this bowl of oil filled to the brim between the crowd and the most beautiful girl of the land. A man with a drawn sword will be following right behind you, and wherever you spill even a little of it, right there, he will chop off your head." What do you think, meditators? Would that man stop attending to that bowl of oil and out of negligence turn his attention outwards? No. No, Venerable Sir. And the Buddha says, I've made up this simile to get your attention. No, I've made up this simile, meditators, to predict what will be happening later this afternoon. No. Okay, for real. Okay, this is the real one. I've made up this simile, meditators, in order to convey a meaning. This here is the meaning. The bowl of oil filled to the brim, that is a designation for mindfulness directed to the body, being aware of our bodies. Therefore, meditators, you should train yourselves thus. We will develop and cultivate mindfulness directed to the body. Make it our vehicle. Make it our basis. Stabilize it. Exercise ourselves in it and fully perfect it. Thus, meditators, should you train yourself. And the key here, he says it. This bowl of oil that in the simile the man has on his head. Of course, he's needing to be extremely careful and pay, unbroken attention to what's happening there. And this is the point. The Buddha's saying that we don't want to be just piddling, dispersing our attention out. And honestly, until I came in contact with meditation and the Buddha's teachings, it was so radical for me. I remember the first sandwich I ate after practicing just a little bit. It's like I had never eaten before. Because all my attention was always out. And it's as true for many of us, through our senses, and it's worse now. This was before iPhones and the internet and constant bombardment, and our energy and our attention is just being hijacked, literally hijacked all the time. And this simile actually is really wonderful for us to fully take on board. Like, okay, there's not someone behind me with a drawn sword about to chop off my head. My literal life isn't on the line, but my literal quality of life is completely on the line. And if I begin to have skills where I can keep some of my attention on what's going on here right now, where is my body in space, how does my heart feel? Like keep some attention here, steady state. and this is so possible, you know, and it is the doorway. We can come back at any point. You know, we're walking our dog and the smells and the sound and everything, and then, oh, feel my feet, I can bring some of my energy, some of my attention back right here, right now. It's so beautiful because the body is real. The body is real and it's in real time. You know, all my hurts and my memories and my worries about the future, all of this is just concoction, really. It's all, half of it, no, 90% of it's not even going to happen. And none of it's going to happen the way I'm thinking it's going to happen. Nothing. So just get some attention and put it here, right here with the body. It's real and it's in real time. And there are, you know, before the Buddha even gives the instructions about mindfulness of the breath, or mindfulness on the meditation object while we're sitting down meditating, he's given his followers instructions about this in daily life. Knowing, you know, knowing the four postures. These are classic in the Buddha's teachings. The standing, walking, sitting, lying down. These four postures. And then even it gets more detailed. Those are the first instructions in terms of cultivating mindfulness, developing it and strengthening in terms of the body. And then the Buddha gets even more explicit about knowing, you know, is my arm extended or is my arm, you know, retracted? And then a whole list, you know, am I eating? Am I talking? Am I listening? Am I going to the bathroom? Am I going to sleep? You know, just basically, what am I doing? This is that part A, this presence, this aware of the present moment. And the body is our doorway to that. And the Buddha is so clear about that. And then this second part, this what would be beneficial to be doing right now? Again, the body is our doorway. Because as we become just more aware of the course, like what is going on, like what am I doing? What, you know, oh, I'm cutting carrots, you know, I'm you know, writing my shopping list. What am I doing? What am I doing? And then the second part, what would be beneficial to be doing? Again, the body is our doorway because the body will give us information about what's beneficial and what's not beneficial. When we tune into the body, you start to become very aware of, oh, this is what worry feels like. Why do I have, you know, why am I having trouble digesting my food? You know, why is there this tightness in my belly? You know, etc. So the body is the doorway for understanding what is beneficial and what's not beneficial. And then it's very, very beautiful because when we are sitting in meditation, that very often, any second, any moments that you are with your meditation object, these you're dropping drops of wholesome into the wholesome bucket, more and more wholesome, and you start to feel it. And then you start to feel that in the body of like, oh, this is peaceful. This is simple. This is peaceful. This is simple. And I'm starting to feel calm. And then as you start to feel calm, you start to feel lighter. And then you start to feel more clarity. You know? And it's a process. And Beth Upton's very clear, you know, as we're learning meditation, and we will have a myriad of different experiences, and it's a bit of a coarse analogy, but it really works. And you know, you want overall, as you begin to meditate, the direction going towards more and more wholesome and more and more calm and peace and clarity. But, you can't go by each individual meditation time. It's like there'll be this overarching direction that your meditation practice is going in. But the individual meditation sessions, it's much more like the stock market, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, because that's the way it is until you have a certain momentum and a certain level of skill. And so I just want to share that. Don't be discouraged if you have a patch that's difficult, and don't be naive if you have a patch that's just glorious and peaceful, like wonderful, and you just don't know the next sit what is going to unfold. And a lot of this is because so much of what we're experiencing is from past causes and conditions. We're putting things in the present, but meanwhile we're having to live through perhaps some very unwholesome, it's individual for all of us. But this idea of the body being a gateway for this second part of what is beneficial and what is not beneficial. Also, I said 2 suttas, but actually I'm going to refer to 3. And that first sutta that I read, most of the sutta, is from the Connected Discourses, the Samyutta Nikaya. And it's in the book of 47, and it was sutta number 20. So that's Samyutta Nikaya 4720. The title is The Most Beautiful Girl in the Land. That's Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. And I want to refer now to a really important sutta in the middle length discourses, and it's called the Great 40. It's Sutta 117. And the whole sutta is about the Noble Eightfold Path. And there's a section about each of these 8 factors. But interestingly, at the end of each section, there are 3 factors that are working together. And they work together for every single part of the Eightfold Noble Path. And they're what help us to develop each factor. And these are right view and right endeavor, these 4 right endeavors that we talked about for a couple weeks just recently, and then this right mindfulness. And these are the 3 parts of our spiritual practice, of the Noble Eightfold Path, that are doing the work. And how this works, there's probably many ways to describe it, but my understanding and my experience is that, and we've sort of referred to this, that you have to have enough right view even to step onto the path. But then right view is your companion and your touchstone throughout the development of your spiritual practice. And you want to refer back to it. And for me, if I am upset, like if something is not, relaxed and kind of clean feeling, I know I don't have enough right view. That's just the way it is, like I'll give you an example. Someone says something and I take it personally, like, and I get feeling defensive or feeling discouraged or feeling misunderstood. So right away, there's just not enough right view there. There's all kinds of assumptions and all kinds of self-focus, and there's something about it that's limited. It's not the whole picture. And so me just realizing that helps me to deal with that bump in a more useful, constructive way, instead of just going down that rabbit hole and then doing stuff I would have done in the past, which is like pull back or shut down or reinforce a poor me. Nobody understands me. I mean, I can laugh because I did this so much. Anyway, I don't do that very much anymore. Like maybe there's this, there's a residue and a flavor of it, but I know it's garbage. Like it's just not true. And so then I can use this right endeavor and right mindfulness. Like I'm aware, all this stuff's here, all this, burped up all this garbage, and I gotta take out the garbage, and then I might even need to like wash out the garbage bin that it was in, It's lovely. And so this, the right view that is so important for us to really think about, meditate on, and contemplate, is this premise that all of the Buddha's teachings are founded on, which is I can train my mind. The mind is trainable, and I'm not. It sometimes feels like I'm a victim, but I'm not. I'm never a victim. There are always choices. The Dalai Lama has that beautiful expression: whenever possible, be kind. It's always possible. It's that premise. Like, and this is how we've seen humans survive things like horrible concentration camps, etc., etc., because they've somehow realized that they have some options, they have some choices. Even when it looks like you have none, you actually do. You have choices where you put your attention and how you pay attention. And so this is a very, very important premise and a huge component of right view, that the mind is trainable. And we even chanted it, the Buddha will train all those who wish to be trained. Like that's available today, even though the Buddha, the physical man, has long not been here. The Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha are alive, and if we wish to be trained, this is huge. And so this right view will kick in, fuel right effort and right mindfulness, and we can make choices that are so different than the choices that we once were making. And then you start to see like the wisdom in your life, the wisdom component growing and growing and growing, and then you have more and more clarity, and then you have more and more confidence, and then you have more and more mindful. It's so beautiful. And then then you start to even have, for me, what's happening is I just have much more trust of like trusting my body, if I'm willing to really pay attention and listen, you get more and more connected to your gut instincts, and then you start, because you're training your mind, you start being able to trust those gut instincts, like, oh yeah, no, this isn't, I'm not wholehearted here, or oh no, this isn't a good combination, or this isn't beneficial, or I didn't need to say that, etc., etc., etc. So I said that I would share another simile. So many beautiful similes the Buddha gives us, many, many different angles to look at and to learn about mindfulness, a very, very important part of our spiritual practice. off the cushion, and then on the cushion. And this is this metaphor I find very helpful, especially even when for meditation. So this is a long metaphor, a long simile. It's got 7 parts, and the mindfulness is just one component. So this is from the numerical discourses in the Book of Sevens, and this is Sutta 67. And now the Buddha's, I'm not going, it's a long sutta. I'm just going to say where the Buddha's connecting the simile with mindfulness. So just as the gatekeeper in the king's frontier fortress is wise, competent, and intelligent, one who keeps out strangers and admits acquaintances for protecting its inhabitants, for warding off outsiders, so too a noble disciple, a practitioner, is mindful. That it's the gatekeeper, possessing supreme mindfulness and alertness, one who remembers and recollects. It's those 2 parts together. You're aware of what's going on, you're alert, and you're remembering what was done and said long ago. With mindfulness as their gatekeeper, the meditator abandons the unwholesome and develops the wholesome, abandons what is blameworthy and develops what is blameless, and maintains themselves in purity. So the mindfulness, while we're meditating, acts as a gatekeeper to keep out, and we can actually give the mindfulness, give the attention in clear instructions. Okay, attention, we're going to be with our meditation object. For many of us, it's the breath. We're going to be with the breath. And for me, the gatekeeper really works because I happen to pay attention to the breath here, and so it's like I'm letting in the breath. That's my friend. That's my meditation object. And then, oops, no, we're not letting in those worries. There you can later. Just the breath right now is what gets to come in and gets to go out. It's a very, very beautiful simile, and this idea of acquaintances. This is my friend. This is my helper. And the gatekeeper's my friend too. A lot of friendliness in meditation. Lots of friends and all the wholesome qualities. And then just this idea of the befriending the body and the body becoming a beautiful, trustworthy friend, and then you can start to tap into these really good feelings of when the heart starts to relax and be open, and then you start to feel so well. And if it's an uncomfortable feeling, that's very welcome as well, and you can do the holding technique with that, and not staying away from harsh, staying away from resistance, starting to have some flow. And the breath has that. The breath has this flow. So I'll just, my pet thing is to bring in modern psychology and neuroscience. And indeed, Bodhipala shared with me that this whole premise that the mind can be trained, and that I'm not a victim, I'm responsible. It's my job. There's a researcher at Stanford, and there's more than one, but I can just remember the name of one, and her name's Carol Dweck. See how well I remember that? Dweck, 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 Carol Dweck, and so she's put forth this whole idea with lots of research, and it's called growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And what's so beautiful about her research, Sorry, I'm going to look at my notes to read it, because it's all wholesome. It's all like almost the Brahma Viharas that, and right endeavor. It's all sorts of factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. When we take on this right view that, hey, it's possible. I talked about that last week. It's very, very important part, that faith, and trust and confidence. So when you take on this premise, this growth mindset versus fixed mindset, these things come on board. They come along with it. You end up being able to embrace challenges. You persist in the face of setbacks. Effort, endeavor, trying and failing become a path to mastery. You're open and you're learning and you're benefiting from, and you're inviting criticism. It's not a threat. It isn't something that sets you back. And then, so cool, you find inspiration in the success of others. This is this Brahma Vihara, this beautiful abiding for the heart and the mind of mudita, a rejoicing in the success of others. So this growth mindset, you derive inspiration because it's more evidence that this will work. It's working for them. We're all the same. That's why the Buddha can give us a list of hindrances, because we're all the same. And then a list of wholesome factors. We're all the same. Very, very personal, individual, but completely universal. So I will end there, and very much invite questions or anecdotes. Did I say that right? Anything.